Let's talk some more hockey. We bring in our insider, Elliotte Friedman, and it's that time of year. It's that time of the week, Elliotte. On Wednesday, we will see the latest edition of 31 Thoughts. And let's start with these Vegas Golden Knights. They have a glut of D-men, so if you're George McPhee, what are you going to do?
I think he's trying to move people. You know, we've seen situations, Dave, where he's got players in the minors like Shea Theodore and Vadim Shipachyov who shouldn't be there. They should be on the roster, but he's got people he doesn't want to lose on waivers. And, you know, one of the things that a couple of guys were telling me is that you really notice around the league how thin the blue lines are. There's very few teams you look at who you'd say, wow, that's a 6-defenseman unit or even a 7-defenseman unit I'd feel comfortable with. And then how about trading one from your roster to add strength somewhere else? So, you know, everybody's looking at Vegas, but the fact is one GM said to me, the guys that we really want off that roster are not available. So George McPhee and the other GMs are kind of in a big poker game right now to figure out who gets moved.
I like how we're getting the inside scoop before the 31 Thoughts comes out. That's pretty good. I think you saved myself some reading on Wednesday. Let's take in the
Just
Pacific.
make sure you click once, okay? That's all I
The Pacific Division, let's stick there. Calgary Flames, if you're Brad Trey Living, Glenn Gulletson, you have some decisions as well. Mark Jankowski, what's going to happen with him?
I don't think he's going to be in the minors for too long, Dave, especially, you know, his first weekend. He scored 2 goals in his first game, and he basically made the team in the first place. But the fact is the Flames had to move some guys off the roster. So, you know, Calgary actually, after a real stinker on opening night, they came back to beat Winnipeg, and then they ended a 29-game losing streak in Anaheim. And I know you don't like to change your roster too much when you've got a winning situation, but I think Mark Jankowski is not long for the American Hockey League, and I don't think it's going to be too long until we see him in the NHL.
All right, Elliotte, let's shift our attention out east. And the New York Islanders, they need a home. Brooklyn doesn't appear to be working out. What's the latest there?
You know, I was in New York City on Tuesday, and Jonathan Ledecky and Gar Snow had a media availability with some of the local guys there. And, you know, one of the things he talked about was they're going to play this year in the Barclays Center, and they're going to play next year in the Barclays Center. And then we're going to see. You know, they've submitted a bid to develop an arena at Belmont Park, and Jonathan Ledecky made it very clear that is the only vision he is considering, the future of the New York Islanders at Belmont Park. He said, I have a vision, and the vision is that they don't necessarily remember us as owners, but they do remember owners who built a new arena there where the New York Islanders won cups. So, you know, he did say that it probably would take about 20 months to build the arena after they get the go-ahead to do it, assuming they win. But they are all in on that project. They wouldn't talk about anything else. About someone brought up, would you move the team? He said, look, I'm not going there. I'm talking solely about winning it there. And I did ask Gar Snow, you know, do you worry at all that, you know, John Tavares' timeline is affected by how long it takes to get this proposal done and possibly accepted? And he just said, look, I don't purport to speak to John Tavares, and I won't put words in his mouth. But there's no question that the Islanders are all in on this Belmont project, and that is what they want to see done for their future in the New York area.
And that's interesting. You have to imagine a huge part of their fan base would love it near Queens and the Bronx as opposed to in the middle of Brooklyn as it is now. Finally,
Absolutely.
I know we're not going to see NHL players at the Olympics, that's clear. However, there's a bit of a loophole here, and it could apply to some young players especially. When you look at a guy like Nolan Patrick, possibly, could we see him playing in South Korea?
Well, no question that Team Canada Brain Trust is interested, Dave. Last week, the Flyers started their road trip out west in California, and GM Sean Burke and head coach Willie Desjardins were at 2 of those games. You know, I mean, the biggest question is he going to stay in the NHL? If he's with Philadelphia, he's not going anywhere. But they were definitely scouting him out. You know, the interesting question here is that the NHL has made it clear that if you're on an NHL contract, but you're in Europe or you're in the Canadian Hockey League, it won't have a problem stopping you from going to play. It said only the guys on the 2-way deals in the American Hockey League, because they could be called up, those are the guys that we are not going to let go to the Olympics. However, the IOC has kind of indicated it might not let any player on an NHL contract go to the Olympics. So there's a bit of uncertainty right now, but they're interested in Patrick. And the other thing I heard is a Chicago Blackhawks prospect named Dylan Sekura. He's a senior at Northeastern. He's from Aurora, Ontario. He had a big weekend last weekend in the opening weekend of his season against Sacred Heart, and apparently there were Team Canada scouts to see him too. So a lot of these young players, they're getting looked at, and Team Canada would like to take at least one young forward line overseas to South Korea with it.
Great stuff, Elliotte. Our insider, Elliotte Friedman, you want more of that. That was only 4 points I counted, so we got 27 more. Catch it on sportsnet.ca on Wednesday. Thanks so much, Elliotte.
That was 4 thoughts spread out into 8, Dave. That's
there you go.